Today on the Daily Review, we talk about a fantastic movie that I'd never seen and gone under my radar, but clearly a masterpiece. It's The French Lieutenant's Woman by Karel. Reisz. I don't think I'm saying that right. But the second I started watching, I go, this is either Polish or Czechoslovakian. The mentality behind the filmmaking. And then I was right. He's from Czechoslovakia. But then I realized it's because he spells his name Karel, Karel. And subconsciously, I had fucking pieced it all together. Anyway, today on the Daily Review with me, Joe LaRocca. Okay, so yeah, this is a movie that is in the Criterion Collection, although I do not own it. But right now the Criterion sale is going on at Barnes & Noble, so they're 50% off. So now they're only $20 for a Blu-ray and $15 for a DVD. So I was just kind of like, I didn't say know much about this movie. It's Jeremy Irons. It's from 1981, and it's really not Jeremy Irons. It's really Meryl Streep. Is really the force behind it, and it's directed by Karel Reisz, who has an interesting career. So he was Czech, and then after World War II, he went to England and was a big part of like the Lindsay Anderson, Tony Richardson, like kitchen sink movies, and started with Lindsay Anderson a type of documentary cinema called free cinema, which is very similar to Cinema Verita, and then what's the other one they call Cinema Verita? They have like another name for it as well. That's gonna bother me. And music score by Carl Davis. This is based on a novel from 1969 by John Fowles, and cinematography is Freddie Francis, who is, one of the best. It was nominated for Best Actress and Best Adapted Screenplay. But it didn't win either, which seems crazy that it didn't win Best Adapted Screenplay. I think it's one of the best screenplays I've ever well, I don't want to go. See, this is what happens. This is why I usually do movies that I've seen multiple times, or that was the goal when I started this, because right after I see a movie that I like a lot, I go nuts. And I go, the best fucking movie ever made. And then people are like, what? Or a year later, I'm like, not that good. Like, I probably would have put her really, really high up, especially of the movies of the decade, the movie Her by Spike Jonze. And then when I just rewatched it, it's a little bit, there's something missing in that. It's amazing that what he's able to do, but it's still a very unsatisfying ending. And that doesn't mean you have to have a happy ending. Your movie has to have a satisfying ending. And that doesn't have to be positive. Now, this is the only movie I've ever seen that has its cake and eats it too, and figures out a storytelling reason to do it. So, what the movie is about, and I'm not going to spoil anything, and I'm not going to go, this is a movie I could talk about for 3 hours. I could teach a whole class on this if I watched this again and took notes. And it wouldn't necessarily be educational. It would just be my rambling thoughts. I just have a lot to fucking say about this. But essentially, it's two stories. One is the story of The French Lieutenant's Woman, which is a story of a woman who is beautiful and strange and mysterious, and they don't know if she's a prostitute or a widow or what's going on. And Jeremy Irons, who is a gentleman, an English gentleman. This is like the 1890s in England. Lyme Regis, like southern, like south of, I think it's south on the coast of London. And she's a gentleman and a paleontologist, right? Excavating to piece together the past. I wonder if that'll become a fucking awesome part of the book. It is. Looking at pictures online. Sorry, I get distracted easily, as you've known if you've watched even one other episode of this. So she, he's like a proper gentleman. He comes from money, and he's a man of science. and he asks for the hand in marriage of this woman who seems very nice and is very pretty, and her father is very wealthy. He's a shipping guy. You know what I mean? He builds ships. So he's got a lot of money, so it's all good, and he's like, let's do it. And then he gets infatuated with this woman and slowly learns about her, slowly digs up the fossils of her past, and they get enraptured, if that's a word. They become just in love with one another. And in the same way as Age of Innocence, it's not like it's where like a kiss means more than anything. You know what I mean? Like it's a different time period where you'd watch it now, you'd be like, oh, whatever, I just went to the bar and fucked some bitch. You know, I don't know. It's not like that. It's like if you get seen by somebody kissing something, like your whole fucking world would come down. Like I don't know. You know, they're very puritanical, the society at that time. And we slowly learn about Meryl Streep's character, who is this, some call her the French lieutenant's whore, some call her the French lieutenant's woman. We learn their backstory. It's so good, and I don't want to tell the details because I genuinely think you should watch it. But also, we learn that this is a movie that's being made, and that half of what we watch, or maybe a little bit less than half, maybe more like 1/3, of what we're seeing on screen is Meryl Streep as an actress, not playing herself, but playing an actress, and Jeremy Irons again, and they're having like an affair. They're having an affair on the set of the film, essentially, and how their stories parallel one another, and it is so fucking beautiful and well scripted that I was just like, by the end, I was like, I never want this to end. Like, there's a point where a movie just coasts, you know? It's like a bird that flies way up in a thermal. It's like built up all this. It's used all this energy to fucking flap its wings, and now it's up high enough and it can just ride the thermal. It can just ride the wind. And that's all it's doing. It's just every shot that comes in, another burst. Freddie Francis, Meryl Streep, Jeremy Irons. You know what I mean? It's fucking awesome. And you're just coasting along with it, and you're like, I kind of know how this is going to end, but it doesn't matter because it's doing it so well. And apparently the book has 2 endings, and somebody asked him, well, what ending are they going for the movie? He's like, you don't know? And so that they can have one ending be positive, and then like the fictional ending be positive or negative, and then have the non-fictional part be positive or negative, although they're both fictional. It's fucking genius, and I'm glad that Spike Jonze came up in my mind, because this is a movie that Spike Jonze would make stylistically, like, or also like not stylistically, excuse me, but structurally, very much like an idea that he would do, right? Or even Michel Gondry or Charlie Kaufman is maybe the perfect person, you know, where he's kind of blending these ideas of art imitating reality, and we're seeing the film and we're seeing reality, and we're not hammering the audience with it. We're doing it in kind of a subtle way. In fact, in the first minute or two, the first like 10 minutes, you're a little bit like, what's going on here? You're not 100% sure. And I wish I accidentally watched the trailer, which is annoying on Amazon. If you push the play button, there's 2 play buttons. One's watch the trailer, one's watch the movie. And I always push the wrong one, and I start watching the trailer, and that kind of gave it away. And I really wish I hadn't seen that, because I would like to see how far into the movie I would have been like, wait, what's going on? Because it does start where it's like, roll the camera and stuff, and I was like, whoa, is that just like a Fellini-esque, like Bergman-esque, like, hey, yeah, you're watching a movie, motherfucker, like Persona or whatever? I don't know. Yeah, this is a seminal film. I don't understand why it's not more popular. I don't know what to say about this. It's so bizarre to me that it hasn't come up in my education at all. I don't think I ever would have even heard of it if it wasn't a Criterion movie. Just masterful performances. Like, this Meryl Streep especially, it's like she's 2 different people. You see her in the movie, and she seems like an old-timey British woman, and it's totally believable. And in the next shot, she's a modern woman, and it's like, oh, that's a different actress. Like, it's fucking phenomenal, and it's so meta. It's like, folding over on itself in meta-ness. But what ended up happening when meta stuff became popular, like if you inject that kind of too much style into that meta-ness, you're not being subtle, meta-ness, then it becomes, you're being so like, look at what I'm doing, which is kind of a Spike Jonze thing, which is kind of a David Fincher thing, especially early David Fincher. Aren't I so clever? It's definitely a early Christopher Nolan thing too. And with the exception of the Batman movies, it's pretty comparable until same thing with the structure, just like brilliant screenplay structure, like it's almost math, like Memento is like, it's like if somebody who was into math wrote a screenplay. Yeah, it's great. Usually British romantic dramas, you'd go, I know what this is gonna be, because even Age of Innocence or Howard's End or I didn't do Age of Innocence, but I did Howard's End, but just those type of movies, it's a little bit like, yes, I get it, and I know it's gonna be incredibly restrained, especially with the sexuality, and it's all based on performances and writing, and some of them are really good, but this one keeps, since it has this kind of breaking it up from like old-timey times where it's a little bit harder to relate and then bring it into the present, is genius. It's absolutely genius. This book must be brilliant too. I mean, obviously it's part of the book. At first, because it's from 1969, I thought at first it was a book from like the late 1800s or early 1900s, and I was like, oh, they added the meta-ness. But no, it's in the book, obviously. Once I realized it was a more modern book. Yeah, another fucking dope British movie. Once again, let's see, reception here. Roger Ebert gave it 3.5 stars out of 4, calling it a beautiful film to look at and remarkably well acted. New York Times, Vincent Canby said, an astonishingly beautiful film, acted in an elegant hit by Meryl Streep as the ultimately unreliable Sarah. Jeremy Irons, who looks a lot like a younger Laurence Olivier of Wuthering Heights, and Charles Smithson, and by the cast of a splendid, supporting actor, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, they're fucking awesome. The supporting cast is awesome. Siskel gave it 4 out of 4 stars, calling it a beautifully made film that affects the past and the present quite well. Both Streep and Irons live up to the extraordinary advanced billing they have received. He ranked the film number 10 at the end of the year of his best films of 1981. Oh, okay. Gary Arnold of the Washington Post wrote an unflailing. Oh, I thought it said unfailing. Pictorial treat. Rivals last year's Tess as a handsome and evocative period production. I don't know what I can't really find many flaws in this movie, so they're there potentially. Or the truth is that it's got a 78% on Rotten Tomato, which isn't bad considering over 50% of people are morons. Okay, is this on? right. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Set that back up. Dude, watch this movie. Everybody watch this movie. It only cost $8 million, and it made $26 million. And it's about people looking at each other. It's fucking dope.